Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Compod live on
Welcome.
podcast and video. You check us out on YouTube.
Yes.
Obviously, you're already checking us out on YouTube. Unless you're not checking us out on YouTube, you're
In
seeing
which case,
us on...
what are you doing?
Yeah, jump over to YouTube. I think that's the...
Give us
that's,
the clicks.
and that's the promo spot right there.
Yes.
Yes. Cool. And Dr. Davis is with us
Woo-woo.
for the first time on video.
Is it?
But
Yeah.
certainly
Our
not
last
the
one
last
wasn't
time.
recorded?
You didn't get to make it last time, which was the first time.
Right. You were in New Orleans.
Friday.
Right?
We
yes,
missed you
last week I
terribly.
was in New Orleans.
Yep.
What an experience.
I would
Was it
have
cool?
rather been in New Orleans.
It was amazing. I
Cool.
was attending the ACOFP conference, so American College of Osteopathic Family Physicians, and we had our Congress of Delegates the first day,
Cool.
followed by a wonderful conference, and that was quite an experience.
That's so fun. Did you eat beignets? Cafe Du Monde?
I did.
How was the food down there?
I
like?
ate a lot last week. I've never tasted anything like it. I mean, you cannot repeat those flavors anywhere else. It was absolutely amazing.
Cool.
So we kind of took a sampling of the city and
Little culinary tour.
Yes, it was so good. I'll tell you one thing that they did at the end of the conference. The incoming president, they have a reception. There's some name for it, and it's blanking. But they have a band that will lead you through
Oh,
the
yeah.
city. What
Like
is
a
it?
little parade.
Yes, and so they did that, and so it was awesome. There was a band, and there was like police escorts, and they took you all down to Bourbon Street, and then I turned around and went back.
That's nice.
Oh, my gosh.
But
Well,
it was amazing.
we're happy that you're
Yes.
back.
And students are welcome, residents are welcome. So, what? I
And
don't
it's
remember.
annual?
Yeah,
Yeah,
every
yeah.
year,
Cool.
every year.
Yeah.
So
Exciting things
hopefully
to
our
look forward
students
to.
and residents who are family medicine will consider attending.
Cool.
Yeah, it's great.
For sure. Which
You
is
can come too.
neither one of these two.
Well, I
I
might
know.
consider just
I was
changing
like,
it.
I know. I mean, you can come to the conference. All are welcome.
Okay, cool.
Pay your fees.
Just pay up, Josh, and you can go.
I haven't heard any internal medicine conference be this, awesome.
Yeah.
I know.
Yes,
We'll have to
fun.
ask Dr. Wilson, ACOI.
Yeah,
is
or
their
Dr.
big-
Bates.
Yes, yeah, they're big. So that's the comparable organization, and
Mm-hmm.
they have an annual conference as well. I bet it's cool. You should go.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, we want to introduce Josh and Chris. Thanks so much for joining us on the podcast today.
Of course. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I was telling them they have no obligation to us anymore, and then they reminded me that they don't have their
They're
diplomas
not there
yet.
yet.
Yeah.
A few more weeks.
A few more weeks.
How many more weeks do we have? You would know.
6?
7? 6?
I want to say 6.
Six.
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
I know. It's
I was
crazy.
even walking in this morning. I'm looking at all the second years in the study rooms. I'm like, this is their last exam week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? This is like we get at this point in the school year.
There's
where
so many
it's-
lasts.
I know. And it's surreal.
It's
I don't know
wild.
how much you remember, Chris, but that was a stressful time.
That was a stressful time.
You got to pass to go on to, all your rotations. And
I know. There's a lot. Didn't it seem like you would never get to graduation?
I'm still not at graduation, so
Well, I mean, we have
it's
6 more weeks, but didn't it seem like so far off when you first started?
It's so far away.
Yeah, yeah,
But it flies by in a strange way.
yeah.
I think a lot of it was just not knowing what day it was, combined with not knowing what part of the year it was, and then it's one test, and then 6 weeks later it's another one, and you're like, whoa. But yeah, we made it.
One deadline at a time.
Yeah.
One high stakes exam at a time.
Exactly.
And you guys were part of the COVID class.
We were a
So
part
what
of the
was
COVID
that
class.
like?
Well, it was a really unique experience to start with. Actually, that was, I think, the first time I recorded a podcast with you guys was like 2 months into.
You and Christy.
Yep. And so that was a good time, but I think it was interesting being part of the COVID class because you had to turn to a lot of different new learning styles and like new ways to like get to meet people in your class so that were different from the traditional way that you would have met people in your class and stuff like that. So Josh and I actually kind of met that way. There was like a semi/not school organized picnic a couple days before the class started, and that's where Josh and I first met each other. We were throwing a football around, and I didn't know Josh until then, and now he's been my best friend through school.
Besties.
He taught me how to throw a spiral,
Nice.
and 4 years later, I don't think I can replicate it, but I'm still working on it. So,
But you did it once.
did it once, yes, maybe twice.
Yeah.
You could be like a host on the podcast. I don't know how many
I
times. I
know.
know you've been here a lot.
I know.
I would be happy to be a stand-in host. Let me
Okay.
know.
Love
Yeah.
that. When next time Dr. Davis is in NOLA, you can come on.
Okay, sweet.
I can't guarantee we're going to record
Fill
them
in.
all,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But
Yeah. Chris would have been on a lot more had we pushed the record button.
yeah, I'm sorry about that. I do apologize.
That's okay. That's
I
okay.
also just want to clarify, just so everybody knows who's listening, what we call the COVID class, right? These are the
Yes.
students who started their medical school here at ICOM when COVID was in full swing. We were fully masked, social distancing, probably a lot of lectures were probably
They were all
hybrid,
remote.
if not remote. Yeah, all remote.
Well, yeah, they were on WebEx,
Yeah,
but no one was in the lecture halls.
Yeah.
That was really bizarre.
yeah.
Lecturing to an empty room.
Yeah. And then you and your team built this recording studio.
Right, right.
So thanks, COVID.
Yeah, I mean, we're giving accolades here. We definitely owe so much to your team because, wow, I mean, it was like a seamless pivot, as seamless as it could be.
Yeah.
I mean, really, when we went into lockdown and then executing the curriculum for your class, because of our awesome IT team, we were able to do that with minimal hiccup.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And now they're graduating.
I know,
Yeah.
it's
Which
crazy.
is so crazy. Well, let's jump in. Where will you guys head off to next?
Yeah, so I am fortunate enough as a Boise native. I call myself a native, even though I moved in when I was 4. And
That
so
counts. That
As
counts.
native.
I've been here about
You've
20
been here a
something.
long time.
Yeah,
That counts.
yeah. And I matched into the University of Washington here in Boise, and so I'll be doing at least 3 more years
In
here
internal
Boise.
medicine?
In internal medicine,
Awesome.
yes. Yeah.
Exciting.
Very exciting.
I also consider myself a Boise native, having moved here in the middle of COVID. No, I'm just
That
kidding.
counts. That counts.
No, I will be. I was fortunate enough to match into my top program in emergency medicine in Chandler, Arizona, at Dignity Health East Valley.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about the process. How did you choose your specialty, and how did you rank your programs? Because you guys both got into your top spot.
That is true, yeah. So my idea with what I wanted to do with my life kind of started with my uncle, who was a hemonc physician. And so I was fortunate enough to kind of shadow him, and that kind of stirred the pot to do internal medicine. And so I kind of had that in my mind coming into medical school. And what I really enjoyed about the specialty, and I'm kind of just, drawing back to what I said during the residency interviews, what I enjoyed about internal medicine was honestly just the diverse amount of things you could see and the diverse pathology and the lifestyle. And so even through all the different rotations, I still found myself going back to internal medicine. And so I stuck with it and decided to apply.
I think my path to emergency medicine was somewhat biased from the start. My dad's an ER doc, and so I kind of grew up under that household, was familiar with the lifestyle and the things that he would do at work. It was like my favorite thing to ask him when he came home, like, how many lives did you save today? And now going through med school and starting into emergency medicine, I realized that it's not every day you save a life. But my dad kind of made it feel that way, which was really fun. And then going through rotations, I realized that I enjoyed a little bit about everything that I kind of rotated through, but I didn't really love any particular one until I got to emergency medicine, and I was like, oh, wow, this is where I get to put everything together. Everything that I like about every specialty can come into one, and then everything that I dislike about every specialty, I can kind of
You send off.
I send off, yeah. And so
Phone a friend.
Phone a friend, exactly. So, I love the emergency room. Once again, same thing, diverse pathology. I love being able to be there in an opportunity to see somebody potentially on their worst day of their life and help work through that with them. And then also seeing some of the minor complaints, cuts, bruises, scrapes, and stuff like that, and being able to manage it. But most importantly, I really just love being able to be in a position where no matter what walks through that door, I have the tools and the team necessary to kind of treat that individual for whatever it is. And that uncertainty and that lack of knowing beforehand is kind of exciting for me. And the shift work is really nice. I never have to call somebody when I'm at home sleeping.
I'll say this too. My one emergency medicine rotation that I did was honestly some of the most fun I had. Like just being kind of what Chris said, just able to have that hands-on work and, get patients to where they need to go and be with them during that time was honestly really fun.
Mm-hmm. So branching off that question, because you asked a little bit about like why, how do we rank our list or something like that, or how we pick programs. So I, first and foremost, I kind of, I did a couple of audition rotations. I did 3 of them. They all happened to be in the state of Arizona, and that was for a reason. My wife and I at the time were expecting our first child, who was born 9 days ago. And so we wanted to be really close to family. Thanks. Yay! And so we really wanted to be close to family to help out with childcare, and transitioning to residency is going to be just as stressful, if not more so, than it was transitioning to medical school. And so for us, we realized that being close to family was really important. So we wanted to do that first and foremost. Then secondly, I kind of looked at what do I want in an emergency medicine program and what kind of training do I want. And there was a couple of things. Firstly, I think if you ask any ER doc out there, the one thing that scares them to death is kids. When a kid walks into the ER or gets brought into the ER, they could be sitting there smiling and have something completely sinister going on.
Totally.
Or they could be screaming their heads off and it's like a tiny cold, or they like bumped their head out, like getting out of a car.
That's my son.
So kids scare me to death. So I wanted to go to a program that had really, really strong pediatric emergency medicine.
Oh, good. You're not
exposure.
avoiding them.
Yeah.
I am not.
You're
No.
like running into the fire.
He's like, yes.
No, I realized that that's not my comfort zone. So like, I got to find a program that's going to
awesome.
push me to do something like that. I also wanted to go to a program that was going to expose me to a lot of different environments within the the world of emergency medicine. There's kind of your academic centers, your community centers, and then your more rural locations where you kind of have to figure out your own way with the tools that you have. You don't have all the resources and specialists. And so I picked a program that was going to be very community focused, but still have the level of volume and trauma coming in that I would be able to get all the skills and training that I need. So I picked a very busy level 1 trauma center that's a community center, so not academic, so I'd still be able to get my hands dirty and have plenty of opportunities for rural medicine. So my list was focused based upon where am I going to get the training that I need that will push me to be the best physician that I can, while also being in a geographic location that would be amenable to my family and my wife.
That's awesome. What about you, Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. So opposite of Chris, I denied all children completely, and internal medicine is just focusing on adults.
On adults, yeah.
Yeah.
On grown-ups.
But for me, kind of similar to Chris, I chose my programs to apply to first off just on where family was. And so as future applicants will see, there's like geographical preferences that you can list on the AAMC website. And for me, the 3 that I listed were where I had cousins, I had aunts, uncles, stuff like that, where I could be a family. And so other than that, it was also honestly where I thought residents would have the most fun outdoors, because it's big part of my life, big part of who I am, to go hiking, to do photography, to trail run, all that stuff. And I wanted to talk to residents who kind of had similar interests, and if I had to move somewhere else, could also provide me some insight and some mentoring, not just in medicine, but also in life as well too. And so my top, I would say 10 programs all kind of align in this Pacific Northwest and Intermountain area, Utah, Washington, Oregon. And I honestly chose my ranking based off of which residents had the most fun in a way, but also looked for programs where everyone seemed a bit connected and a bit like family in a bit. Mm-hmm. Because to me, yeah, training to me is important, but I also really value my life and my wellness outside of it. And that's something that I've tried to maintain throughout my time here at ICOM. And so in addition to training and in addition to medicine and what I will see, this outdoor life was something that I considered heavily.
We're so happy that you guys both ended up with your first choices. So amazing job. Kudos to you both. Looking back to match day, how nervous were you? Because you both attended the on-campus celebration. So thank you so much for coming.
It was fun.
How nervous were you just sitting in the lecture hall with the answer to your life, like right in front of you, and you couldn't open it until we had to do the dreaded countdown?
Yeah, that was a long hour. I think looking back, I probably would have arrived a little bit later during the day, because I was like one of the first people on campus. And so I was like super excited to get my box and get the letter. And it was just sitting there. And I looked around and I realized that I was like one of like 4 or 5 other students at the time. And I'm like looking up at the clock and I'm like, well, I have an hour to just sit here and stare at this envelope, not knowing what's inside. It was exciting in the sense that we got the email Monday saying that we matched. And so it was more just like, okay, I've got a job. I'm happy. I'm going to be able to provide for my family. I'm going to be able to practice medicine and finally reach that goal of what I've been doing for years and years and years. And now it's just, where's it going to be? And so I kind of took that time during that hour to not only recall some of the messages that Dr. Farnsworth or President Farnsworth gave in years past, but to say, you know what, regardless of the outcome, like, you get to make of this opportunity whatever you want it to be, right? You can open this letter and be frustrated if it's not the one you want, or you can look at it and say, doesn't matter where it is, I'm going to go in and I'm going to give 110% effort, and I'm just going to love whatever opportunity comes my way.
I was pretty calm, cool, and collected that morning, I'll be honest. I think the week beforehand, kind of what Chris alluded to, that match day letter was super nervous for. And when we got that letter, I was like, a big weight lifted off my shoulder. And I was kind of coasting a little bit because I was like, I'm getting married, I guess, this week. And my fiance and
I know.
Yeah.
We've got a lot to
Chris
talk
had a
about.
baby, we're
I
getting
know.
married,
It's awesome.
life's happening. My fiance and I were just talking, and we were just like, yeah, wherever we go, we have a great community here in Boise, but we'll be happy to make a community wherever we are. And what I kind of mentioned, the programs that I listed up high really focus on, family and having a life outside of medicine. And so we were all excited no matter where we went. And then I get to campus, and I forget who told me this, and I apologize if she's listening. It was someone on staff, and she kind of like tapped me on the shoulder and was like, "You're Josh, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Exciting news for you soon." And I was like, "Wait, what does that mean?" And then so I got super excited. I got super nervous. That is when the nerves kind of ticked up. And then afterwards, that was 40 minutes while we were waiting inside there. It was a little bit nerve-wracking, but even though I was content with wherever I would end up, it would be remiss for me to not say that I was extremely elated that I ended up here in Boise still.
Yeah. Happy tears, happy smiles, everything. Amazing. So now we have our third year class about to be fourth years, sort of beginning that process of creating audition rotations, having to compile a rank order list. What advice do you have for them or any incoming fourth year student at any COM listening to this?
I think for me, one thing when I first got onto like VSLO to look for audition rotations or start looking for programs to apply to, it was a little bit overwhelming because there are thousands of programs out there that at first glance all look like they could provide you with what you wanted. And it's kind of hard if you don't know where you're going into to kind of narrow down what you want to do or where you should even start. And so I guess the biggest advice that one of the alumni here kind of told me was, get a list of just 5 things that really matter to you. Even if it's, dumb things, or not dumb things, but like small things like, restaurants or how close it is to the nearest national park or something like that. But just have a list of things that really matter to you and kind of use that to start narrowing down some programs.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good tip.
Yeah, I would agree. You gotta kind of figure out what is important to you and what you're looking for. And as I did more and more audition rotations and looked at more and more programs, I kind of realized, similar to what Josh was saying, that about 80 to 85% of what these programs do is going to be the same. Right, ACGME requirements, they all require the same stuff, like specialty specific, that you have to do and that you have to be able to rotate through and stuff. And so it's really that extra 20, 15% that they do outside of the program or about the program specifically that is unique to them, that's what you're looking for. You're trying to find your right fit. I'm a firm believer in that there is no best residency program out there. There's a best residency program for you. And so you have to be able to sift through the weeds and figure out what that program is. And so for me, I knew kind of going through it, I was like, okay, geography is going to be important. I want to be close to family. I want to find a program that exposes me to all the different, training environments, and then also forces me to get comfortable with children and pediatric emergencies. And then also a little bit lower down on my priority list is I really wanted to go to a place where I didn't have to scrape my windows.
That's a good one.
Arizona was good.
That's a good one.
Were your windows frosted this morning?
No.
I parked in a garage, so
good for
thankfully
you.
no.
Well, my car didn't make it in the garage, but I was like, we still have frost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy. There's frost on my
April.
roof.
I know.
Yeah. Nuts. Okay, so that won't be you.
Yeah, so that won't be me. So I think that's really, really important when you start to look for programs of like, what do I want? What am I looking for? And then you can start to compile your list that way. I think it's really important during fourth year to keep an open mind, especially when you're considering opportunities. There were programs that I applied to that were like way on the East Coast, and I don't have family that's even east of the Mississippi River. And so it's like, I'd be going way out there, and I know I just said that family's super important, geography is important, but like I threw a couple reach programs out there and just,
Just to
tested the
see.
water.
Yeah, just to try it out.
But I think it's important to be open-minded when you're considering your options, right? Because you never know which program is going to be the best program for you until you put yourself out there and like put in the work to research it and stuff. For audition rotations specifically, talking about that, I think wherever you decide to do your audition rotations at, every single second that you're there is an audition. It doesn't matter who you're talking with, whether you're working with an attending, another resident, another medical student, the nursing staff, security, they all talk and they all chat. And it's not in a malicious way. It's just that they're trying to get to know who you are, right? And I think for my field of emergency medicine, right, the big litmus test that you have to pass is, can I deal with you at 3:00 in the morning? And so, that's a big deal. And so being able to be bubbly in a sense of being, I can have a conversation with somebody. I can look you in the eye. I can chat about this and that. And I'm also competent at what I do. And I tell you what I'm comfortable with and tell you what I'm not comfortable with. And being open and having those conversations, that's stuff that goes beyond the actual application of medicine that you've been learning for 3 or 4 years. And so that's important. So every single second that you're there, you're being watched, you're being observed. So take it seriously every single time that you're there. Never kind of like sit back and be like, oh, I'm comfortable with this situation, and I'm just going to slack off and say things that I, otherwise wouldn't have and stuff like that. So it's important to remember that you're always on the clock, and also just to make the most of the opportunity. Some of these programs, obviously, you're not going to go to every program out there. You're going to go to one. And so make sure that wherever you're at, you're making the most of that opportunity. Sign up to see that extra patient. Make sure you're following up on your patients. Make sure you're getting to know the family and stuff like that. If you don't know how to do a certain skill or procedure, ask a resident or an attending teacher. Say, hey, I've never done that, but I'd love to learn, right? That's a great opportunity to show that, one, you're teachable, you're coachable, and that you're engaged in whatever the field is. Like you want to get better. And so I think big thing, never show up late to anything.
That's a big one, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Really. Never show up late. Pick up those extra patients. Work hard. Just go out there every single day to where when you go home at night and you're going to bed, or if you're finishing your 6 a.m. shift and you're going home, look yourself in the mirror and be able to be confident in saying, I gave 110% of myself today. And regardless of what that result was, whether it was good or bad, you gave it your best. And that's all anybody can ever ask of you.
I need Chris to be my life coach.
He's been my life coach.
nuggets.
I'm
Yeah.
feeling like amped up. I'm like, yeah, Chris.
We'll have to pull out some quotes.
Yeah, totally.
I remember kind of to that point, one of our first study sessions together, he gave me a quote to like that's carried me these last 4 years. I think he wrote, what was it? Like you have to try, but it's okay not to know everything.
It's okay not to know it all, but it's not okay not to try.
Yes. And so that's kind of
That's
been
a
my
good
life
one.
model
Another
these
pearl.
past 4 years. Yeah. But to kind of carry that onto audition rotations, one thing, and to Chris's point, that a few preceptors throughout my rotations have told me is, you're smart enough. Like, you've made it to medical school, you're here, you earn your position here. That's going to help you in this time. But what's really going to carry you forth as you begin your residency, your job, is your personality and how you deal with other people. And a lot of them were saying, always try to have that positive attitude, always be willing to learn. And as, I'm a little apprehensive when preceptors just write, keep studying on like their evaluation of you. But to a point, that is true. Like, you're always here to learn. You're always continuing to learn. And that's a mindset that I've tried to carry into audition rotations. And one of the auditions rotations that I did was at the Boise VA, the University of Washington one. And one of the feedback that I got was they enjoyed that I set goals for myself every single week that I wanted to achieve. And to them, that made it seem like, I was there not to just do a good job, but to try to be exceptional and try to do something.
Can you give an example? Like, what were one of your weekly goals?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
for
did you
me,
communicate that at the beginning of the week? Did you say to your attending, like, this is what I want to accomplish this week? Or,
I did. Yeah. It was something that one of the third-year residents there told me first day. She was like, I want you to succeed here. You're here for an audition. They must like you for whatever reason. And so here's my tip for you. And so my first goal that week, it was this kind of a funny goal, but it was to learn their EMR system to a point. Like, they use this ancient, and I'm not bashing on them, I'm just saying the facts here, but an ancient EMR system that it took forever to learn. And at first, when you're trying to find lab values, when you're trying to find their baseline creatinine or trying to find past stuff, it's going to be difficult, and it's frustrating when you want to know what you're looking for, but you can't find it. And so I made it my goal for the first few days just to get that down pat, and then for the next week or so just to get used to the system and to not be afraid to ask questions. And so that really opened up them to kind of just, honestly ask me, like, hey, do you have any questions? I know one of your goals was, you don't want to be afraid to ask questions. Do you have anything for me or anything like that? And that made me feel super comfortable that they knew what my goals were and they were trying to help me out and to achieve them as well. And so it started out pretty easy, learn the EMR system. But through that, I was able to honestly get a better footing of the rotation early on and do a better job than I think I would have without that.
Great tips.
What were your goals the last week?
Yeah. How'd you end it?
So my personal goal last week, because I did 2 weeks inpatient during the day and then the last 2 were at night.
Yes. Okay.
And so my personal goal the last week of nights was to just survive. and to not be
Did
cranky.
you share that one, or did
I
you keep
didn't
that one
know.
to
That
yourself?
was one in my heart. Here.
Yeah.
But the goal was to honestly, I wanted to prove that I could be an intern. And so whenever, we were with a first year and a second year student who kind of was our mentor and our attending in a way. And I told the intern, like, hey, you're doing cross cover stuff. We're doing admits. Give me all the admits. Let me do most of the cross cover stuff. And they have to do all the messaging and stuff like that because I didn't have access to it. But I was like, let me try to get that plan out. And you kind of correct me and guide me on that stuff. And so being an intern was my goal for the for the fourth week. And if I did well, hopefully I did well. But
Yeah.
it was good.
And you did, because you got it, and you're going to be an intern.
Something happened.
Something happened. Yeah.
They saw me and they're like, yeah, he seems like a good kid.
I'm like, yeah,
So,
totally.
Can we go back to one piece of the match application that I think
Yeah.
you brought up? And that was the signaling. So did you signal a geographic area? It kind of sounds like perhaps you did that. So could you explain what signaling is and where
Yeah.
that comes
So-
into play with the match process?
I think signaling, correct me if I'm wrong, signaling and geographic preference are two separate things. Geographic preference is kind of just listing force, like, where you would prefer to work or where you would prefer to be at. And then there's a little blurb you can explain why you chose that place.
Did you have to enter that in? No.
No.
Okay, so that was an optional
Yeah, it was an
piece.
optional piece that
Yeah,
you could
lots
do.
changed.
Yeah. And then signaling is something that it kind of differs between each specialty with the number of signals you can do. But to kind of dumb it down or keep it simplified, signaling is kind of just telling a program, hey, I'm interested in you a little higher than other programs. And so it varies just by the number per specialty. Mine for internal medicine was 7.
Okay.
Chris, how many did you have?
In ER, we also had 7.
Okay.
Okay.
And I know some specialties have dozens and stuff like that too. But, kind of once you, have your goals down that you want for each program and what really matters to you, you can kind of start knowing which programs you want to signal and go forth with that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Would agree. There's lots of like mind games that were like kind of out there with the whole geographic preferencing and then also just like application signaling. Because if you were to select, and you can select up to 3 different geographic regions, there's a map on the ARIS application that you can pull up so it shows you what each region is called. So there's like a North, Midwest, Central, and a Southeast, and so they have all these names. But the boundaries actually, when I looked at it, I was like, these boundaries don't make sense at all, but okay. So you can select up to 3, and you can put a little blurb, like Josh was saying, in each one of them. But the mind game comes in because you could put those 3, and then everybody that's in that region that you apply to the program will see that you signaled them. But if you apply to a program that was not within that geographic region, they won't see what regions you did signal, but they also don't see that you chose not to
That,
signal
right.
a reason.
Oh.
And so there's an option to either choose 3 or 1 or 2 or choose none. And if you choose none, every program gets to see that you selected no geographic preference. So the downside comes in is when you're applying to, say I preference heavily the Western United States and I go to apply to a program in Maryland.
Right.
They're going to see that I didn't signal them geographically, but also that I did not select no preference, which means
They
I
know.
did choose a preference and it's not you.
Right.
But I also sent you an
Geographical
application.
area. Geographical area.
It's a lot of
It's like a
mind games.
dating app.
I was thinking the same thing, so I'm glad you said it.
Yeah. Like a dating app. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I think like a lot of this stuff is a bit mind racking because it's just so many unknowns. Like
Right.
you don't
It
know
is, yeah.
when a program sees your application, like you don't know like what they're going to think about if you didn't signal them. There's like no data really out there if you want to be that objective with how things kind of turn out. And so I think Chris can kind of relate to this too. Just really stick with who you are and have that list of really what you want. And like, just don't be afraid that if this program honestly stands out to you and signal them, go for it. And whatever comes, let it be happen.
It's so
Come
interesting.
what
How
may
do you?
and love it.
I'm interested in how you find that balance between, because it's interesting, when you're looking for these residencies that you want to match to, how do you find that balance? I mean, maybe this is different for everyone, but how do you find the balance between choosing professionally where you want to go, but choosing, the lifestyle that you want to have too? Because you're making some kind of life decisions too. And where do you find balance? And maybe for some people, it's all about the profession and I don't care where I'm going to go. I'm really just want to be focused on the work. Maybe for some people, it's that I need to be fulfilled in my personal life and whatever it is professionally I'm doing, I don't care so much. But where was that balance for the two of you?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and it's really tough. And I think you already answered it, in that it's going to be very personal, and like it's just you, like independent to you, which is why I think it's really, really important from the get-go that you figure out what is important to you. What do you care about, right? And if you care about going to the most prestigious of prestigious programs, then go for it, and that should be your priority, and you should be applying to those. If you care a little bit more about, I want a better work-life balance, and potentially what some of those programs might offer me, then maybe you put that a little bit higher into your preference order list. I know for me, when I was considering my rank order list, it reflected very much, first and foremost, where I'm going to get good quality training. I didn't feel comfortable putting any program on my rank list that I wasn't comfortable training at, meaning that I wouldn't become the best physician that I would be. And in fact, I ended up interviewing for a couple of programs that I didn't put on my rank list. And then next most important in terms of like why I organized it the way I did was because of geographics after that. As long as I knew that I was going to a program that was going to provide me with the opportunities to get the training I needed, the next most important factor to me was the lifestyle and for my family to be happy. And so that's how I kind of did it. But I definitely know applicants in our own class and beyond in other classes that were like, no, I just want to go where my lifestyle is going to be the best, or I just want to go where I'm going to get the most prestigious training. And so very, very, I think, personal decision there.
There's no wrong answer.
There is no wrong answer. And, Chris can kind of attest to this too. Our friend group kind of knew me as the guy who wanted to do HEMONC going forward, like going in there, not just internal medicine, but HEMONC, because that's what I love. My uncle did. And this was pretty much true until I did a HEMONC rotation, which was fun, but it was just like a lot of big words. And medicine has big words, but this rotation seemed just to have bigger words, and I had no idea what they were. And so I was like, interesting.
He was like, no thanks.
No thanks. And then secondly, I found my wife, and I realized, my priorities kind of changed. And I knew that, yes, the programs that I will list high up will be the ones that will give me exceptional training, but also I really wanted to have a good lifestyle and be there for my wife. And even though she is also a vet, a small animal veterinarian, and she will also be working a lot, we both kind of made it clear that we wanted to prioritize that. And so to Chris's point, I totally agree. Like, it's so personal to each person, and you will have your different path and what is important to you. But I also want to add, like, it's okay for it to change as well, but you really have to let it be true to who you are still. Like, for me, I wanted to be HEMONC, but then I met someone, and now my priorities kind of changed. But it's who I am now, and it's what I really want to do. And so it's okay to change a little bit, but really find out what it means to you.
Okay, Josh, I think you might need to describe HEMONC for us.
Yeah, HEMONC, it's a great combination of hematology, more of the liquid cancer stuff in the blood and things like that. And then oncology is more or so, I guess, dealing with the solid tumors and solid cancers. And so, in short, it's being a cancer doctor, which is honestly, like the cancer physician I was with, he loved his job, and it was a great profession for him. But for me, I really wanted to, to get my life going, to start making some money sooner than I would have with all the extended hours and
the
years of training. The fellowships, and the big words, And so, to me, that's really what changed my priorities there. Yeah.
So you mentioned you're getting married. You just had a baby, you and your wife. So after match day, some major life milestones are coming up for you guys, or have come up for you. Let's talk about that.
Yeah,
it's fun,
Yeah,
You're growing up.
We're growing up. It's like we're big kids now.
Yeah.
Chris, honestly, like we've been alluding to this a lot during the podcast, but we've been great friends for the past 4 years, and the best of friends for the past 4 years. And he's seen my romantic love life interest wax and wane over time and stuff like that. And so, he's going to be one of my groomsmen at the wedding.
I love it.
This weekend.
Those are my favorite. And
That's so
Stephanie's
cute.
good because she gets them all because you're on social media.
Yeah.
But I love seeing.
And I'll share them.
There's some of my favorite things to see the students and the alumni gather together for people's weddings and big life events. It's so awesome to see. That's so cool.
Yeah,
That's
because
awesome.
he's just been with me through this entire time, and so to finally find someone that I really love and be with, he's been through that.
And you got a house too. Did I see that?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
She
See, I
saw
know
everything.
everything.
house, too.
I know.
And the address is no, I'm kidding.
It is ICOM's address.
Yeah, it's 1401 East Central.
Yep.
We bought the building.
Wow,
So congrats on
You've got
that.
quite the physician home loan if you bought the building. Wow,
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Me and
It's
Dr.
just several
Thompson.
million.
Yeah, several million.
Yeah, and we did try to plan. We realized that there was going to be a gap between when medical school ended and residency started, and I was like, "There's not really going to be another point in my life where I've got 3 months to just kind of like sit around and twiddle my thumbs." So like, we knew that we wanted to start a family, and so we kind of planned it around that. And fortunately, she was born. I guess it would be so March 30th, which would have been just over 2 weeks after match day. Which I was really nervous about because I was like, this baby's going to come in the middle of match day. I just know it. I've got a feeling. And I was joking with my wife when I originally told her, I was like, hey, I know that like you're going to be preoccupied, but like, I'll just check the email in between pushes. Is that like okay with you? And she looked me dead in the eyes and said, yes, you absolutely will. And I was like, okay. Not the response I was hoping to get. She's like,
So funny.
she's like, I'm looking for any distraction I can get. And I was like, okay, great. But fortunately, she didn't come that early. And so we were able to go to match ceremony and enjoy it together and had another couple of weeks to just kind of enjoy one another's company and just sit back and really just take it all in and then have a baby. And now it's been sleepless nights, but wonderful days.
Did you help with the delivery?
I volunteered not to.
That's probably for the best.
Yeah, I said, I feel comfortable delivering a baby. I've delivered a handful of babies through medical school, but I was like, you know what? In this moment, I just want to be dad. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to be dad at the head of the bed, and I'll be there with you. And then, I cut the cord, I guess. Woo.
Wow.
That's
That's good.
fun.
Sometimes it's good to know what your role is.
Yeah.
Yeah, know your
And
place.
that's a great role to play. Yeah.
Yeah. So I enjoyed playing dad at that time, and it's still weird calling myself dad.
Did Brianna care if you delivered the baby or not?
Oh, yeah, she said no.
Oh.
Because she
Yeah.
wanted me to be
There you
dad.
go.
So I was like,
That's
okay.
good.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
Yep. So, and it's been great. It's been great. Yeah, absolutely have loved it and getting more and more comfortable with little babies by the day.
And with graduation coming up, a lot to celebrate too, for
Yes,
sure.
so much. Yeah.
I think I'm always looking forward to events hosted by ICOM because, like, let's go back to like the match day celebration. Like, no matter how nervous you are, the spread there from the charcuterie boards.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
It was pretty.
That
It's
we
was-
know how
36
to
foot.
feed people.
It's
Yeah.
always impressive, and so I'm looking forward to the dinner and what graduation day is going to look like.
The zoo's going to be great. We have lots of food lined up for.
Wait, we're going to the zoo?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh.
graduation
It was
week.
fun.
We rent out the zoo for everyone, and we have like food stations. So we'll
Food's
have like
good.
a mashed potato bar, mac and cheese bar, like so much food.
I'm
Again,
looking
I
forward
am
to
so
that.
impressed.
So come
That's neat.
hungry.
Wow.
Yeah.
It forces you to meander throughout the zoo
Yeah.
as well.
What?
Yeah.
I'm a big zoo guy.
Okay.
Yeah, love it.
I will say, jumping back to a serious note, as far as like match, rank lists, audition rotations, all that stuff, ICOM has been phenomenal from the start. Like their communication has been pretty on point. They were very told us well in advance of like what the steps were going to be, what we were going through, provided us with ample opportunities to reach out to advisors, members of administration, anybody that we needed to talk to about anything, any part of the process. They were always there, and it was super helpful. I remember not only meeting with my faculty advisor to kind of like talk things over, read over my personal statement, read over my letters of interest for audition rotations, but also talking to people that weren't my faculty advisor, but were in the specialty that I wanted to go into and say, hey, what have you heard about this program? Because a lot of these programs have been around for a while. And so getting to talk to somebody who has been in the thick of things and have heard things on the other side of the fence, it was really, really helpful for me in terms of prioritizing which programs to apply to, which ones to signal, which ones not to, which ones to rank, and how so.
That's great feedback for us.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and I would also add on, like, don't be afraid to ask for help. Like, again, like when you see the thousands of programs out there, it's going to be a little overwhelming and just kind of like, where do I go from here? But my best help came from, again, my advisors and like Dr. Bates, and then honestly, the alumni that I knew who graduated, they gave me really helpful advice, and I would hit them up at like 11 p.m. I know one of them I've texted a lot at night, and he's just always prompt and willing to help. And so I think, people who are always willing to help, and just don't be afraid to ask.
That's great. Well, we're going to add you to our alumni database now that I have. So feel free to pay it forward.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Super helpful, actually. One of my audition rotations, I stayed with an ICOM alumni for the entire rotation.
Who?
Krista Nicewag.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Krista.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so from a couple classes above us, and it was awesome because you get to see them in the field, like practicing and stuff like that, and you get to talk with them at home too, and hang out with, and hear a little bit more about the program and stuff like that. But honestly, since she's 2 classes above us, I never got to see her as a student.
Right.
But seeing her like practice, I'm like, wow, I would really
there
love to
anyone-
have that.
Yeah, she was a
confidence.
rock star. And
Do we
she's
have
in
any other
Arizona.
alumni in that program? I feel like we do.
In
We have another
Arizona?
student that just matched.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
another
then,
brother.
and then one of our
Yeah.
faculty, their son is in her cohort.
Yep,
Yeah.
met him.
Oh,
He's
really?
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah,
It's
this
a
is
small
awesome.
world. You guys like all know each other. It's like 6 degrees of separation
Yeah.
in the medical field.
It is funny. Yeah.
Well,
So that was fun that they both matched at the same time.
Yeah, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on the podcast. It was so awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Congrats on the big events too.
Yeah.
Wait, when is
Yeah,
your
wow.
wedding? Is it Saturday?
Saturday,
Friday?
April 13th.
Okay. Are you gonna
my
crash it, Stephanie? Do you know where it is?
No.
It's here at the ICOM building.
The address is.
Yeah, it's in
In
the
the
atrium. Yeah, it's on the calendar.
And congrats on your baby.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Very
so
exciting.
exciting. He named her Evelyn.
I did.
Aw,
So cute.
Beautiful.
I love that name. What's my daughter's name?
Whoa.
I promise I didn't steal it, but it is a great
No,
name.
I mean, everybody
I
once
didn't
you
know
have
that.
Mhm, but I call her Evie.
Yes.
We
that's-
also call her Evie.
Oh,
Stop.
wow.
See? No, it's like one of those things. You know how when you buy a car, suddenly you see that car everywhere.
Yeah.
It's the same with names. I feel like
It is because
Okay.
that's the same with my second son.
totally
Yep.
because then you'll be at the park and you'll hear Evie,
Yes,
and you're
yeah.
like, what? So exciting. We'll have to get her an ICOM onesie.
Oh, I think we actually
put
did. We
You
had
got one?
our
Mental
ICOM shirt.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
so-
Perfect.
I started Chris out. I gave him this book series for his baby. It's called Astrophysics for Babies.
Nice.
And it has 4 different subjects there too.
But wait, big words or no big words?
Oh, it's tiny words.
Okay,
They
perfect.
kind of dumb it down.
I mean, I don't know. The 4th book is nuclear physics, so I don't.
That's awesome.
So I.
She's
Yeah.
well on her way to
Yeah,
medical school.
she's gonna be at NASA.
That is amazing.
Mhm.
That's a great.
She'll be at NASA soon. I love it. Well, thank you guys again.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank
Thank
you
you.
so
In
much.
6 weeks.
Bye.
Bye.